Something that we have not seen before happened today, and here it is.
The United States believes that negotiations should result in two states with permanent Palestinian borders with Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and permanent Israeli borders with Palestine. We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, so that secure and recognized borders are established for both states.
Who needs Yasser Arafat when you have the President of the United States recommending that? I just said on Monday, and then again on Tuesday, I actually was warning you that we're talking a lot about Israel. I was begging an indulgence from you. We're talking about Israel a lot, and I said it doesn't matter to you yet, but it will very soon. And it's going to take a while for people to really understand why this matters, but it does. Little did I know on Monday and Tuesday when I said those words to you that very soon would be today. The President of the United States, I believe, has betrayed our last strong ally. I mean, if you look at our allies, Japan, they an ally anymore? You darn right they are. But they have been devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. They are not able to do anything anymore. They can't help us. We have to help them. France, was it ever really an ally? I mean, really? Total riots in the streets with Muslim uprisings. Sarkozy isn't a friend. Obama has alienated or betrayed them or insulted them. The leading candidate against Sarkozy, who isn't winning in the polls, is now saying that she'll break the NATO treaty in relationship with us and align themselves with Russia. So that's out. Great Britain, where are they? Oh, they're really. I mean, what's left of Great Britain? They have been so ravaged by socialism and political correctness, they're on fire. Great Britain, you don't have much time left. I mean, they're on the road that we're on. They're just ahead of us. God bless Great Britain. But are we really an ally? Do you remember what happened? You remember what happened, what our president did to Great Britain? And then Germany, they're on the ropes because they're on the hook for Greece and Spain. Australia, no offense, Australia, but I mean, in the U.S., you're best known for the blooming onion, you know? I mean, really, Outback Steakhouse, I love it and everything, but, I mean, I hate to insult Australia because they are an ally, but it's Australia and Canada that are now the strongest allies we have. We're in trouble. There's one ally left. And Barack Obama took care of that one today. Benjamin Netanyahu is on a plane right now coming over to the United States. He's getting ready to speak to Congress in a few days. And once again, we have slapped him and Israel across the face. This is a letter signed by the President and then voted on by Congress. Overwhelming support in Congress. 2004, it is a letter from the United States to our friends in Israel. In the letter, the President of the United States to the Prime Minister of Israel says, here's what we're going to do. We promise you that Israel will be an equal partner in whatever will happen in the future. We will not go back to the 1967 lines because it means the death of Israel. And Israel has the right to defensible borders. That's not the 1967 lines. The House and Senate overwhelmingly supported this letter. Today, Barack Obama took this letter and ripped it up. Israel's Prime Minister, Netanyahu, before he got on the plane, expressed his disappointment. He said, quote, Israel believes that peace to endure between the Israelis and Palestinians, the viability of a Palestinian state cannot come at the expense of Israel's existence. I announced on Monday that I'm going to be doing an event called Restoring Courage in Israel. I thought we were ahead of the curve a little more than we are. I think it's time to have the guts to look inside yourself and really, how do you feel about Jews and Israel? And are they our ally? Are they our friend? I thought we were ahead of the curve, but I think we're right on cue. The call to courage is not just about Israel. It's about what you really believe in. Do you believe in the Western way of life? Because if Israel falls, the Western way of life will fall. And that is not hyperbole. It is the keystone of the West. U.S. News and World Report ran this headline last night. I was in bed and I read this and I thought, what are they, out of their mind? Will Glenn Beck's Israel rally hurt U.S. foreign policy? I thought that's not even this is about. This is not about policy. This is about standing with the Jews and the Israelis and standing against evil. Little did I know today he would give a speech, the one he gave. I mean, I believe our foreign policy has, quite honestly, has done the opposite of what I thought we were doing. I mean, will my event hurt foreign policy of the U.S.? I damn well hope so now. The president tried to play nice and point fingers at everybody. I'm fair, everybody, but his comparisons weren't exactly fair. The Palestinians, the big negative there was, they walk away from talks. The Israelis, they are occupiers, keyword, occupiers, and humiliating Arabs. Wow. Sounds to me like somebody's a little upside down on the good and evil scale here. It's either the president or me. Occupiers. Colonialism. The key to understanding this president is colonialism. And if you understand this president, you will understand you are not like him. And it has nothing to do with the man's color. It has everything to do with colonialism. Let me give you a little history lesson here, and I apologize for the butchering of this history, but this is 1917. This is the Balfour Letter, November 2nd, 1917. It was signed with England. Basically, England at the time controlled Palestine. There it is, Transjordan, Palestine, the British Mandate of Palestine. There it was, went all the way over towards Iraq and Syria. That's what it looked like in 1920. Well, we were having a war. And through this document, the basic agreement was, you help us with the war, and we'll give you a piece of this homeland. And so it was. But as always, the world goes against its promises. There isn't a damn person in politics with honor from coast to coast or the four corners of the earth. Just a few years later, public opinion soured on the Zionists in Palestine. So in 1922, Winston Churchill ordered the funds to be cut, and he said no. Well, they went against the promise. World War II comes up. I believe it was Harry Truman that said, hello, I've got tape. Have you read this? Because the Jews had been chased out of every country in the world, including ours to some extent. We wouldn't take German refugees. We just turned the boat around. So it was Harry Truman against the State Department that tried to kill Harry Truman on this, that taped it back together and said, wait a minute, let's give them that worthless, oilless piece of land. Let the Jews have some sort of homeland. Nobody wants them. That was done by Winston Churchill. Isn't it interesting that it was this president whose grandfather was jailed by the British, boxed up a bust of Winston Churchill that was in the Oval Office when he first met the Prime Minister of Great Britain. When I signed that off and crossed Great Britain off of that board earlier in the program, and I said, Great Britain, please, they're on the ropes. They're also not an ally because we aren't making them an ally. We had a bust of Winston Churchill that was given to the American people to commemorate 9/11, to show solidarity, that we stand with you. The people of England said, we stand with you, America. There's the Prime Minister sitting with President Barack Obama, and he's like, hey, by the way, you can take that bus back. And the Prime Minister says, no, I mean, this is a gift for you. You can take this to your museum. He says, no. Hey, Tony, come on in and box that thing up and send it back. That didn't seem right then, but I didn't understand the infatuation that this president has with world change to stop the colonialists. So, England patched this back together and gave the Jews the land. And now here we are. I told you last night that people who are anti-colonialist are going to make the same case that they're making against Israel. They'll make it against us. Remember, little Satan, Israel, great Satan, us. The Middle East is on fire, right? I told you last night that they would start to make this case about us. They would start to merge these two cases. Well, I want to show you something we found last night. It's a clip from International Answer, funded by George Soros and the Tides Foundation. Listen to one of their speakers on colonialism.
Is that and this is something that makes the Israeli colonial settlement of Palestine more like that of the United States than South Africa, even while I maintain that they both have apartheid, different kinds of apartheid system, as did the United States. But the U.S. and Israeli models are more models not of subjugating and exploiting the population, but of the extermination or complete removal of the population. That the situation that exists in the Middle East today is very large, and it's not just the Middle East, it's also the conflict in Africa. Many of the conflicts in Africa are really a direct outgrowth of colonialism.
Okay, so people will listen to that and they'll say, I don't even know, it doesn't have to do with anything. And they'll dismiss it as just rhetoric or old news. What our founders believe, whatever. I'll tell you what our founders believe. Our founders believe the only way you could trust a theory of government is to know the history of human nature. And they studied it, but apparently nobody in Washington does anymore. I know a little bit of human history, at least when it comes to the Jews. It's pretty hard to miss the museums. The Jews haven't been killed. They haven't just been persecuted. They've been hunted down, chased off land after land, tortured, experimented on, and killed. They have been refused safe harbor by everyone, including the United States of America, when they were being exterminated. Then, to make it all nicey nice, we gave them worthless, oilless land. And they were happy. And they were our allies. And they have yet been attacked over and over and over. And now our president says, I'm just trying to help. You know what? The old things like colonialism might live on with some people. It might be old news to you, but it lives on with some people. And the old hatred of Jews lives on as well. Do you even know what Nakba Day is? Because I didn't. I had no idea. I'm learning all kinds of stuff about Israel that I had no idea. Nakba Day. It's the day of catastrophe. That's what Nakba means, day of catastrophe. Palestinians celebrate Israeli Independence Day as Nakba Day. It's celebrated like this. This is how they celebrated Nakba Day in surrounding countries. It's like July 4th upside down. It's a celebration to them. Their television station caught this sweet old woman talking about Independence Day for Israel, otherwise known to her as Nakba Day. Listen to what she says. Watch.
الخامس عشر من أيار عام 48
بنتذكرها كم ليش بنتذكره إن شاء الله الله بنصرنا وبننسى هذاك الأيام إن شاء الله بتدفنوها بإجريكم وتذبحوا اليهود بإيديكم زي ما ذبحناهم في الخليل إن شاء الله بتذبحوهم اليهود ذبحوهم أهل الخليل وأبي والله ذبح وجاب أواعي من عندهم وكسبوا.
Isn't that great? I want to show you this. This is where she's talking about. That's where this is happening. Right here. Right here. Here's Israel. Okay? This is the West Bank. This is, you got to give this back. Here she is. Nakba Day. Now I want to show you the airport. Put the airport in. Do you have it? There's the airport. Now you tell me, you can shoot a plane from a rooftop. How is anybody even going to, how do you secure this land for the Jews? Especially when you have over here, when you have Iran saying we're going to run them into the sea? How do you do that? How do you fly a plane into the airport? And they want these people, now, these people, also to take Jerusalem. Not all of it, not all of it, but 1967 lines, the old part. Does anyone, first of all, believe that the old hatred will die? Do you think that lady who's talking about, yeah, I want you to massacre them, I want you to kill them with your own hands, you think that dies when they go, oh, we give you land? Oh, well, let's not massacre you. Does that happen? Let me tell you how this ends. It ends with the destruction of Israel. It ends with the end of the Western way of life. It is the keystone of the West. You do this, it inflames the Middle East, and I got news for you. Bill Kristol, make fun of me all you want. A caliphate is established. It is why Osama bin Laden said, take advantage of the Arab Spring. Did you hear the tape they just released? The last one he made, apparently. He said almost the same thing our president did. And our president expects you to believe that peace will happen if Jews just give up more land. Really? Take out the hate, will you? Let's look at things logistically for a second. How do you move 300,000 people from the West Bank? How do you move them, Mr. President? And you really believe if you bring Palestinians in and give them all of the homes and even the stuff of all the Jews, they're going to say, you know what, neighbor across the border, we're not going to massacre you. Let's put things into perspective. This is a picture that was taken in the West Bank. See that one? Remember this? Know what that is? Cookies. They were celebrating the death of this family. The brutal death of the Fogel family that no one else wanted to talk about. People from the Palestinian section of the West Bank went in and brutally killed this family in the middle of the night. A little baby, a mom, brutally killed. The Palestinian Authority will rule this land. The same ones, the Palestinian Authority, that just signed an accord with Hamas and these guys.
يؤتى بهم لفيفا إلى فلسطين ليكون الشرف لفلسطين وأهل فلسطين ومن ورائهم أمة الإسلام في القضاء على الشر المستطير لهذه الشرذمة من البشر مهما كان في الخليقة من وحوش كاسرة، من طيور جارحة، من زواحف مؤذية، من حشرات ضارة، من ميكروبات فتاكة، خطرها أدنى بكثير من خطر.
Hezbollah, that's Hamas. Hezbollah is run by Iran. Remember, Iran says run the Jews into the sea and Israel has to be wiped off the map. They also say, quote, the Zionist regime is heading towards annihilation. Ahmadinejad says the Zionist regime is a rotten, dried tree that will once be eliminated by one storm. Or how about this super classic? By God's will, we will witness the destruction of this regime in the near future. Obama did say that Jerusalem will be dealt with separately, but he said going back to the 1967 borders. That assumes that East Jerusalem is now in the hands of the Palestinian Authority. Got it? That they'll take that and run with it. And when that happens, let me give you a list here of the holy sites that you will no longer be able to see again. If you go to Jerusalem, you won't be able to see the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. You won't be able to see the Western Wall, or the Mount of Olives, or the Garden of Gethsemane, or the Garden Tomb, or the Room of the Last Supper, or the Temple Mount. None of it. I told you 2 weeks ago that our faith is under attack. I told you that they would take our holy sites this week. This is not about Israel. This ends in the Middle East with chaos and death. How do I know? Well, recent history, that's how. I'll explain when we come back. 67 lines, which is insane. Let me ask you, if you reduce Israel, if you reduce anything in our country to an 8-mile strip, how do you defend that if everybody around you is screaming for your death? You can't. If we were dealing at a time where it was truly Arab Spring and we're like, hey, everybody's saying, let's just relax a little bit and get along, then you might want to wait just a few more minutes before throwing our only ally in the Middle East under a bus. But we don't have a stable situation in the Middle East. Israel is our friend. Why would you cut a deal that weakens the borders and security of Israel and say, you got to work with your neighbors, when you have no idea what's going to end up here? No idea what's going to end up here. You know the Syrians, are they stable? Are they going to be in there in 6 months, 6 weeks? What is Syria going to look like? How about Saudi Arabia? How about Yemen? How about Qatar? How about Iran? How about Iraq? Afghanistan? You know what Pakistan's going to even look like? Why would we throw our only friend under the bus and say, hey, you got to get along with everybody? You don't know what those countries are going to look like in 6 months. Jeez. When is America and the world going to wake up? Let's look at it this way. Let's say you had an apartment, okay? And you decided that you were going to expand it. And you made a deal with the person that owned the condo right next to you. You made a deal. You had a piece of paper. And that deal gave you part of that neighbor's apartment. And you took that and you blew the wall down and you built a new wall, and so you had an extra room. Well, the people that are living in that apartment, not the owners, the ones who are living there, now they hate you because you took that room. And they've, terrorized your cat and your kids, and they've been nasty neighbors. And the little old lady that lives there, she keeps saying to her husband, kill them all. Now, the husband, who's kind of reasonable, except he's with the lady who's saying, kill your family, says, hey, can we share that room? I don't think so. I don't think so. Look, we're just going to take off your front door, and we're just going to share that. And we're just going to share that room. That'll be cool. Is the spooky lady who's saying, kill me, is she coming? Because I don't feel comfortable. No, you know what? No, I don't think so. Because you won't shut the lady up that's saying, kill my family. Remember the Arab Spring, when everybody was fawning over these pictures in Tahrir Square, everybody in the press, oh, this is great. And I was saying, no, it's not. This is the same place where we now find out we're a week later screaming and chanting, kill the Jews, kill the Jews. But I don't have to go to a week later. In this crowd, on this night of February 11th, Lara Logan was changed forever. In case you forgot, here she is.
I'm screaming, thinking, if I scream, if they know, they're going to stop. Someone's going to stop them, or they're going to stop themselves because this is wrong. And it was the opposite. The more I screamed, it turned them into a frenzy.
Someone in the crowd shouted that she was an Israeli, a Jew. Neither is true, but to the mob it was a match to gasoline. The savage assault turned into a murderous fury.
I want you to remember those words. The more I screamed, the more furious they became. It is coming. The dominoes are going to continue to fall, and Israel is the keystone of the West. And if you pull that keystone out, the West falls. That's why they're pushing so hard. Just like I said, Egypt was the keystone to the Middle East. Israel is the keystone to the West. But the president apparently doesn't get this. He thinks what's happening in the Middle East is a good thing. Here he is.
In the course of history, when the actions of ordinary citizens spark movements for change because they speak to a longing for freedom that has been building up for years. In America, think of the defiance of those patriots in Boston who refused to pay taxes to a king, or the dignity of Rosa Parks as she sat courageously in her seat. So it was in Tunisia, as that vendor's act of desperation tapped into the frustration felt throughout the country. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets.
Stop.
Then thousands.
Let me tell you something. First of all, Take 6, please. Remember this up here? I said radicals, Islamists, communists, socialists will work together against Israel, capitalism overturned. I said this in January. I've left it up so nobody forgets because everyone made fun of me. When I saw Tunisia, I told you that is the Archduke Ferdinand moment. It will set the Middle East on fire and then set the world on fire, and nobody will remember. This is the moment the president is referencing. He is holding up a guy that sets himself on fire as the next Thomas Jefferson or Rosa Parks. He's not backing off the Arab Spring. He's cheerleading it. Well, finally throwing in a token line about the Coptic Christian churches that are burning in Egypt by saying the Coptic Christians have to have the right to worship freely in Cairo. Oh, well, I hope one of them set themselves on fire to make the point. The way this fundamental transformation of the world is being played is awe-inspiring. Have no doubt about it, it is absolutely brilliant. They have united with every enemy of capitalism, of Israel, of America, of the Western way of life. But it is evil, and you should call it by its name. This August, in Jerusalem, I cannot believe I am saying this to you today. It truly may be the last time you can stand and worship and see the holy sites of Jerusalem. The United Nations comes together in September to either endorse or condemn Israel. This may be it for our generation or for all mankind. I don't know. Tomorrow on the radio, and in case you don't listen, go to glennbeck.com, but you need to know immediately, I am going to announce, and I didn't make the decision of where we've reserved so many sites. Last night at 1 a.m. Eastern Time, I made the decision because we had to be on the phone and give a decision to all of these places in Israel. 1 a.m., man, I prayed on this one hard because what I'm going to announce tomorrow, I thought it was going to be rough going yesterday. Now with what the president has done, let me tell you something. This is going to be a life-altering event. It will take profound courage to stand in Israel because I believe the very gates of hell have just been opened against them. But the very gates of heaven are about to open up the other way. Join me at glennbeck.com. Information tomorrow. America, I remember when I was a kid, and I had a globe growing up, and it was in my room, and it said the USSR. And I remember when the USSR fell, I wished I had that globe still, because the map had been totally redrawn. I believe we are living in a time where our maps today will be outdated and completely redrawn all around the world. We are looking at a president and a left and a movement that wants that to happen. A borderless world, for one, and a caliphate, for two. The president today showed us that he has officially, I think, in my opinion, betrayed our last strong ally, at least slapped them across the face, by suggesting we go back to the 1967 border lines. That leaves Israel an 8-mile strip. You go ahead and try to defend that. You can't. If everyone around you is peaceful, you're good. If everyone is screaming, kill the Jews, you're dead. William Helmrich, he is the author of What Was I Thinking? He is a sociology professor, and we wanted to bring him in because I wanted you to help with this one thought. Do you really think that our president and this administration is so clueless that they have no idea what this means to our ally and to the rest of the world?
Oh, I think he has very good intentions, but as they've always said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and he's doing a great job of it now with this kind of solution.
So how is he missing what, I mean, first of all, it's an ally. How's he missing this.
What he's missing is that you do not have to endorse or suggest that we go back, that the United States help Israel go back to the pre-1967 borders in order to achieve a two-state solution. Everyone wants a two-state solution. Netanyahu wants a two-state solution.
Right.
Abbas says he wants a two-state solution. But the fact of the matter is that you can have a two-state solution without going to indefensible borders.
So what do you what does it mean for most Americans are like two-state solution, 1967 borders? I don't care. I don't know what is 67 borders. What does that mean?
What that means is that Syria, which is inherently an unstable country, and we're seeing more and more evidence of that now, is going to be looking down from the Golan Heights at Israel. It also means that in this narrow strip, as you said, Israel is going to be helpless. It's going to be indefensible. It's going to have the underbelly exposed totally, especially in the most populated parts of the middle of the country.
So are the Golan Heights, Tiffany, are the Golan Heights part of the 67? Do you know if the Golan Heights for sure were part of the 67? Because I think that's up on the table.
I can tell you.
You can tell you know?
I can tell you right now because I was there.
Okay.
The Golan Heights were part of the pre-67 borders, and it was from the Golan Heights during the Six-Day War that Syria rained bombs and sent tanks down into the kibbutzim that were right beneath it in Kiryat Shmona and Metula and all these exposed cities of the north. Now Israel annexed the Golan Heights, but if Obama's solution stands, the pre-67 borders, that won't mean anything.
I have to tell you, if the Golan Heights, I mean, America, this summer I'm going to take you to Israel, and I'm going to show you the different places in Israel, and I'll take you to the Golan Heights. And when you actually see it, you will understand how insane that is. Golan Heights are up on a cliff. Sea of Galilee is down here. If you have this position, you can so easily kill everybody here. And you're shooting up this way. There's no way this is defensible if you don't have the ledge up above it. It is remarkable.
And not only that, the center of the country would leave the airport 3 miles away from the West Bank. How could that possibly be a sane solution? Have missiles aimed at the airport? And what about the South? Look what happened when Israel gave back Gaza. Did it get anything in return? The president is suggesting that Israel do the exact same thing again. Give something up in advance of negotiations and ask for nothing in return. Now is not the time to do that.
Why do you think the president asked for, made this speech today? It wasn't scheduled, it wasn't announced, it wasn't scheduled, it wasn't part of anything until Benjamin Netanyahu asked to speak in front of Congress on Monday.
You answered the question. He wants to preempt Netanyahu. He wants to put Netanyahu on the defensive.
So tell me how a friend and ally does that.
Well, I think that one of the problems is that he has come to believe, the publicity that surrounds him, that he is a revolutionary. And that revolutionaries often feel they don't have to abide by the general rules that we play by. And so, in his opinion, he can go ahead and do this. He can go ahead and cross a red line that no previous president, Democratic or Republican, has crossed, and say, let's go back to the pre-67 lines. Nobody has said that. Do you know what that means to the Arab world? Once he says we could go back to the pre-67 lines, it basically emboldens all the people. And this coming on the heels of an alliance between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, it's a recipe for disaster.
So what does this do? Help me with the idea. Do we have time? Should we take a quick break? Okay, let me take a break here. We'll be right back. When we come back. William Helmrich is the society professor and author of What Was I Thinking, which I think is the appropriate title for what is President Obama thinking. We were talking in the break about, in your book you talk about taking the easy way out, and you think that's what Obama was doing.
I think that I think he's misguided in what he's doing. I don't think his intentions are necessarily bad, but I think that he's looking for an easy way out of the solution. He sees the entire Arab world afire, and he's looking for something that he can do that will placate them. But this is not the answer. This is not what's going to help. What this does is it emboldens people who seek Israel's destruction. For example, What is Bashar al-Assad thinking now? What is he thinking, Bashar? Is he thinking, oh, I sent people across the border on Sunday, they created a provocation, and now the president says, yes, let's go back to the pre-67 borders. It's almost as though he's being rewarded for what he did. And we all know he's trying to deflect attention from his collapsing regime.
You see the beginning of the show where Lara Logan from CBS was talking, and she said, the more I screamed, I thought if I would scream, they would stop. But the more I screamed, the more incensed they became. Israel now is going to say, wait a minute, what does this do to the Arab world, to the people who are literally gathering by the hundreds of thousands and chanting, kill the Jews, kill the Jews? What does this move by our president mean?
Unfortunately, it does seem that it would play into their hands and that it would embolden them. That in this particular case, the Middle East is a very, very tough neighborhood. The more you give, the more you're asked to give. When I interviewed Dr. Abdel Rantisi for a film a number of years ago, who was the previous head of Hamas, I asked him, would you be satisfied if Israel went back to the pre-1967 borders? The very question we're discussing today. His answer was, no, I will not be satisfied with that because my home is in Ashkelon. Ashkelon is a city that's not far from Tel Aviv. It's a major city, and it's part of pre-1967 borders.
You mean part of it or prior to? I mean, it's...
It was there in 1948. It was there before the Six-Day War in 1967. Now, there are elements within the Palestinian community who genuinely want peace, but he needs to empower those people, not to empower people who say that you give something away without negotiating it, that you say, okay, we'll return to 1967 borders and don't ask for anything in return. Is it possible for Israel to negotiate the 67 borders when the side that it's dealing with does not even express willingness to recognize its existence?
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Back in a minute. This isn't about Israel. It's about many things. It's really not about Israel. Maybe for the Israelis. To me, it is about good and evil. Can we even recognize it anymore? Can we see good and evil? People, 100,000 people standing in a square screaming, kill the Jew, kill the Jew. Is that good or is that evil? Can you imagine 100,000 people anywhere on earth in a square screaming, kill the black man, kill the black man? It's that clear. Good and evil. How is the world missing this? Does a race of people have a right to live? It's not about Israel. Does a race of people have a right to live? Can you trust or reward someone who answers no to question 2? No. Fourth question, why then are we? Why? It could be because we can't recognize good and evil anymore. In 1933, a lot of people dismissed and talked about the German new spring in Germany. No. No. Does a race of people have a right to live? The answer is yes. Answer it yourself.
Tomorrow,
Offers is leaving this program. Brandon Ricci. He is leaving to go to officer school in the military. He has served us well, and I know he will serve our country in a fine and dignified and honorable way. From New York, good night, America. an ally, but it's Australia and Canada that are now the strongest allies we have. We're in trouble. There's one ally left. And Barack Obama took care of that one today. Benjamin Netanyahu is on a plane right now coming over to the United States. He's getting ready to speak to Congress in a few days. And once again, we have slapped him and Israel across the face. This is a letter signed by the President and then voted on by Congress. Overwhelming support in Congress. 2004, it is a letter from the United States to our friends in Israel. In the letter, the President of the United States to the Prime Minister, something that we have not seen before happened today. And here it is.
The United States believes that negotiations should result in two states with permanent Palestinian borders with Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and permanent Israeli borders with Palestine. We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines with mutually agreed swaps, so that secure and recognized borders are established for both states.
Who needs Yasser Arafat when you have the President of the United States recommending that? I just said on Monday, and then again on Tuesday, I actually was warning you that we're talking a lot about Israel. I was begging an indulgence from you. We're talking about Israel a lot, and I said it doesn't matter to you yet, but it will very soon. And it's going to take a while for people to really understand why this matters, but it does. Little did I know on Monday and Tuesday when I said those words to you that very soon would be today. The President of the United States, I believe, has betrayed our last strong ally. I mean, if you look at our allies, where are they? Oh, they're really. I mean, what's left of Great Britain? They have been so ravaged by socialism and political correctness, they're on fire. Great Britain, you don't have much time left. I mean, they're on the road that we're on. They're just ahead of us. God bless Great Britain. But are we really an ally? Do you remember what happened? You remember what happened, what our president did to Great Britain? And then Germany, they're on the ropes because they're on the hook for Greece and Spain. Australia, no offense, Australia, but I mean, in the U.S., you're best known for the blooming onion. You know, I mean, really, Outback Steakhouse, I love it and everything, but I mean, I hate to insult Australia because they're our allies. Japan, they an ally anymore? You darn right they are. But they have been devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis. They are not able to do anything anymore. They can't help us. We have to help them. France, was it ever really an ally? I mean, really? Total riots in the streets with Muslim uprisings. Sarkozy isn't a friend. Obama has alienated or betrayed them or insulted them. The leading candidate against Sarkozy, who isn't winning in the polls, is now saying that she'll break the NATO treaty in relationship with us and align themselves with Russia. So that's out. Great Britain.